I'm sure you thought I might be back. First of all, Mr. Hilliard didn't hear obviously correctly. I mentioned the same earlier. I have heard him pontificate. He was, I think, last looking on the 2010 budget. Every time he's up there telling us about how far off our numbers are, I can't help but think there's a king's court out there somewhere looking for their jester, because the numbers you got tonight are accurate numbers, as accurate as we can be today. I think the thing somebody ought to, the reference point we all ought to have is what you heard tonight as far as the final close of the books was we finished about $2.3 million better in the operating fund than we anticipated when we put together the budget for 2015. And remember that when we do that, we are projecting out, Tim is helping to project out a full 5 months of 2014. So we only had July actuals that time. We ended up beating the number by about $2.3 million. The good news is the majority of that actually came from Cedar Brook, where there was a worry about what direction was the Cedar Brook number. The fact is Cedar Brook came in $2 million to be good. So it is good news. The $2.3 million is a little less, I believe, than 2% of our total tax dollars.
I would respond to that. I have fought for the executive budget during the budget process. I am ecstatic. I think it's a credit to your managerial experience and expertise. And I think this board could celebrate the performance, but it's not the performance, it's the process. And over and over again, it just keeps getting ignored. And I don't know how to get the message across. It's process. Ecstatic about the performance. Hopeful that the concern about process, at least my concern about process, is taken into account. Because every time we express it, somebody comes up to the dais and then shoots it down with it says, whatever was said didn't matter. And then we stay stuck in this place. Somehow. Just move forward.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. There were 17.
Yeah, I told you,
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Joe Hilliard, South Allentown. If we ended up $10.1 million better, we were predicting a $7 million deficit, right? That's $17 trillion. No, I look at a federal budget. Sorry. I mean, am I missing something there?
But I think what we're saying is the difference between what was approved in the original 2014 budget, which was that we would need to supplement revenues with $7.8 million to balance the budget. As it turns out, we didn't use any of that $7.8 million. And in addition to that, we had $2.3 million. So the swing was over $10 million. Between the original 2014 budget, in terms of what we thought we would need, whether we have a deficit, that's the quote structural deficit that people focus on, that in my view is non-existent. And the reality, which is that we had a surplus of $2.3 million.
That's way low. We'll follow up on that.
I think, again, Commissioner Hall.
I think going back to something that Commissioner Jones said earlier, I think that when I've been reading over the administrative code here, and it does speak about the administration's responsibility to ensure that we have accurate numbers, and that it's very important that they have an accurate accounting of the county finance. I mean, that is something that is outlined as a responsibility in the administrative code. But it also speaks to something else that's also been referenced here, is that it says the executive shall submit monthly reports to the board, which shall contain information on the county's financial position. And it talks about what they should include, but says it doesn't have to be limited to that, and it would be budget comparison figures comparing the current year to the previous year is what's mentioned there. And I think that there's this And maybe it's due to limitations that are in our current system for the quick turnaround time that's been mentioned, and it's difficult to get that quick turnaround time with our current system. But I think that's the challenge that we wrestle with. I mean, there's their responsibility to provide accurate information, yet at the same time they're also supposed to be providing monthly information. And there needs to be a balancing of those two things. And I realize that the emphasis that I personally is on accuracy rather than on the perhaps the monthly information, so that they can ensure that they're giving accurate information. And I think that at least I, as a board member, and maybe others as well, feel like there needs to be some greater emphasis placed on the monthly presentation information, with the understanding that it may not be as accurate as we would all like it to be. But that regular reporting should have some more emphasis as well.
And then we have to commit as a board not to take that information and do something crazy.
Right.
That's very important.
Commissioner Schwer.
To me, it's not about the accuracy, it's about access. We should have every right to those numbers, the same way the administration. The administration should not be filtering what we get. If those numbers exist, we should be able to call up the fiscal office and say, hey, we want that. Now, I agree, there is responsibility with that, as Commissioner Jones said, we just can't run out. We're going to have to realize if we get numbers on January 1st for the previous year, those numbers are going to change. But it shouldn't be an issue of access, because we have the right to those numbers.
And I think we can make one thing is clear, and maybe Tim, if I'm wrong, you can correct me, but you produce now a statement that combines all funds, right? And we post that on the website. Could you just as easily produce an operating fund statement?
Yes,
The system gives you the capability of doing that today.
by fund.
By fund.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Commissioner Schell.
Yeah, I'm really happy, and I thank him for giving us the numbers that we got tonight, and the very positive numbers that were delivered. You know, I think that's a great thing. I'd like to comment to Commissioner Jones about having the numbers. You know, one man's crazy might be another man's genius. I think Apple, the founders of Apple said something like that. And so we do have to be responsible with the numbers. I think the only, if I were to say that the only regret that I have, because again, I think you know, the county should be applauded that we actually had a surplus. Is that, you know, in the last 3 years, we've actually kept about approximately $15 million in the taxpayers' hands that would have otherwise gone into the county till. We are not, the county money is not our money, it is your money. And the $2 million surplus is not our money, it is your money. And I would much rather have seen that in your hands in the form of a larger tax cut this year.
I guess what we're hearing again is what we heard in our last meeting. Our concern isn't so much about the gap between revenues and expenses. This evening we heard there really is no gap. In fact, it's a surplus. What we're concerned about is the transparency gap. And I think that is that's the message that the board would like to convey to the administration, is we have a problem with transparency and we'd like to solve it. I think probably we've talked